His new job was to watch a woman trapped inside a room. He was desperate for a job, so when he saw a strange ad with high pay but discretion required, he was immediately interested. Upon arriving, he was met by a man who introduced himself as Mr. Solomon, who escorted him into a large room that contained a chair, a desk with 2 large monitors, and a bolted down metal box with 2 oversized buttons on it, one red and one green. His job was to simply watch the camera on the left monitor. Once an hour, he would get onto the computer attached to the right monitor and enter a brief log describing anything interesting that occurred in the last hour. The red button was only to be used if there was an emergency. The green button was to be hit if he saw something on the video feed that was particularly noteworthy or interesting in his opinion. He was already thinking this must have been some sort of psych experiment or secret government job, which he was okay with. He then asked if he was going to be doing anything illegal. Solomon laughed and said no. He asked if anyone was going to get hurt. Again, Solomon shook his head no. So he took the job with only a little trepidation. When he arrived on his first day, the biggest difference, of course, was that the monitors were now turned on. The right monitor was just a black and white terminal. He could type in his logs, but had no internet to look at or anything like that. The left monitor was a high-definition video from a room. You would call it a bedroom, he guessed, because it had a bed in it, but it also had a TV, a sofa and chairs, a couple of tables, and plenty of empty space in between. At first, though, he didn't notice any of that stuff. All he saw was her, a woman who looked to be only a little bit older than him and was very pretty. When he first saw her, she was laying on her side on the sofa. He found himself leaning into the monitor more so he could see her better. Then he thought about what he was doing and felt embarrassed, like he was spying on her. But it was a good job and he wasn't doing anything wrong, right? It didn't take long before he started to understand more though. The woman who he took to calling Rachel wasn't there upon her free will. He never saw her hurt, but it was clear that she never left that room. Well, she never left the room on her own. Periodically, usually a couple times a week during his shifts, men and women in strange looking outfits would come in and take her from the room. Sometimes Rachel would struggle, but usually she would just go along with her head hung low. They would always bring her back, though the times when she wasn't brought back during his shift were always the worst for him. At home, he would worry about her until he got to work the next day and saw her in the room watching TV or painting. Still, he knew something was wrong. He considered quitting the job or hitting the red button and getting someone to come down so he could get some answers, or even calling the police and showing them what the camera was showing him. Except he was scared. Scared of losing his job, scared of what people might do to him if he quit or told on them. So he made excuses. It was all an experiment. Rachel was crazy or sick, or they were trying to help her. Or if she was really a prisoner somewhere, at least he was watching to make sure that she was okay. In a way, he convinced himself that he was helping protect her by watching her. Rachel would usually paint for about an hour or 2 every day. He always liked to watch her paint. The canvas, though, was always facing the wrong way for him to see it, but he could watch her face as she worked. She always looked peaceful and happy when she was painting, and seeing her that way, smiling serenely from time to time as she got something just the way she wanted, always made his day. Then he first noticed something was wrong when she started painting more frequently a few weeks ago. Rachel's expression was more focused and serious now, and there was attention to her movements that he wasn't used to seeing. This time something felt off. In the span of 3 days, she had finished 4 paintings. He had been growing more and more worried watching her work, but she didn't stop painting. Instead, she began moving the paintings, arranging them on the back and seats of the long sofa at the far end of the room. This was the first time he actually got a chance to see any of the paintings. The paintings were beautiful. One was a beautiful green forest, another an old stone well, a third was a house sitting alone on a small island, and the last was an old-fashioned looking movie theater. All of them looked like something out of a dream, with trailing lines of color mixing in the air around them, like leaves caught in the wind. But it was only when he looked closely that he realized the lines of color weren't random. They were words. He leaned into the monitor even closer and squinted. Then his heart started thudding as he started reading them out aloud in order. Please help me, Thomas. He thrusted himself back from the monitor, jaw dropped and hand over his mouth. It wasn't just that she was finally asking for help, it was that his name is Thomas.